on now. This person sent me their palm a couple of months ago. I've got the left and the right palm to take into account. So the left shows us how we feel, our insecurities, how things affect us emotionally, internally, our secrets, our thoughts and our desires, the skills and abilities and personality traits inherited. So the things that we were given. And the right shows us what we've made of these things and how they affect us materialistically, physically, how they affect us practically. So, for example, if we start a new job and, the left shows us how, anxious this makes us feel, the right shows us the physical, material status that it brings, and the left shows us how we feel about that position. So that's just to give you a bit of an example. Now, what we have here is a fire hand. We've got some long palm and short fingers. They're not incredibly short. And if you notice, the Jupiter finger, it leans towards Saturn. Saturn and Apollo, that's the middle finger and the ring finger, are very well formed. They're straight. Jupiter and Apollo here are very even with each other. And Saturn is long enough. And what I mean by that is that both Apollo and Jupiter, so that's the index finger and the ring finger, are level with each other, and they come up just high enough on Saturn. So comparatively, all the fingers are a good length. And this shows this person has a well-balanced sense of their super ego is at the correct height. They've got the correct amount of self-assurance, confidence, esteem, in line with their creative abilities and their talents. So what this person is able to achieve is in check with is in line with the amount of ambition, if that makes sense, with the abilities to utilize their talents. But what I have noticed is that their Mercury finger is quite low set. We also have a gap here between Jupiter and Saturn at the base. Mercury doesn't quite reach the first phalanx of Apollo on the left hand. But notice the difference on the right. Mercury does reach the first phalanx of Apollo on the right hand. Obviously Mercury is still low set. And Jupiter leans even more towards a straight standing Saturn and Apollo. Jupiter is still in line, still level with Apollo. If it were straighter, perhaps it would be a touch longer on the right, which means this person has gained self-assurance possibly, and the ability to decide, gain some sort of authority about themselves, a bit of self-esteem, gained the ability to lead and dominate others. And I don't like that word particularly, dominate, but it's not necessarily a bad thing. And Jupiter's quite thick. It's certainly got a bit more girth about it than Apollo, which leads me to believe that this person has inherited more from their father than their mother. Again, you've got the gap here at the base of Saturn and Jupiter. And what that tells us is that this person has had some sort of estrangement with their father. That their father was certainly absent in their upbringing. Whether or not that was, through fault of the father or not is sometimes the father figure has to work away long hours. It's no judgment on the father's part. Perhaps the father passed away when this person was young, because we've got a large island here on the left hand, so this person was affected. Their lifestyle and their mental framework was affected in quite a big way around the age of 7 to 10 years old. And after that, you kind of got, I'll show you here, you sort of got, it almost runs through it. It looks as though the headline jumps out of Mars. I always get confused. Mars negative, upper Mars. I always get confused. It's Mars negative, and it's a place of motivation and anger and drive. And this person has a strong overall, a very well-developed area of Mars negative, which is an excellent sign, because this person's ability to carry out tasks that he feels obligated towards, the drive is there. So being a family man, which I believe this man is, not just because of the obvious, but because of the children he has at least 2 children, I think 3, perhaps twins. We'll get to that in a bit. And because of these obligations, as we see Jupiter leaning towards Saturn, even more so on the right hand. So this person's environment, he feels driven, his ideas, his ambition, by, obligated by his environment, by his sense of conscience, his right and wrong, is the sort of driving factor behind his decisions. And that shows someone who, often has obligations towards loved ones. He's got to put food on the table. And that might have been what happened here as well. Perhaps the cycle is repeating. But I think something more serious occurred. Whether the two are linked is another question. But this is some sort of trauma that occurred, as I say, during the ages of around 7 to 10 years old. It's very difficult dating timing events on the lifeline. If we can't see the sides, where the lifeline begins on the palm, it's a very difficult endeavour for even the most experienced palmist. So I always just sort of give a rough estimate. There's no point spending too much time on these things. And from this time, there was some anger that developed, and you can see the way the lifeline and the headline come away from each other is interfered, it's interrupted by this event. It's had a profound impact on the way this person carved their own independence, identified with themselves, and it made them question, and it was a very traumatic time in any case. And there was also, by the look of it, a period after this that may have interrupted their environment, their home life as well, and in their teen years. And this wasn't necessarily a bad thing. I think this may have been the moving home. They may have moved home at this time. What else to say about the left hand here? So I've made lots of notes on this person's palm, lots of little bullet points to kind of remind myself. So we've got some. Let's go over the family now, because this person is a family man. As I say, he's very family orientated. And here we've got the family ring. There's a bit of a wave to it, which shows that family life is challenging, I would say. And the islands on the family ring show children. Islands in palmistry aren't good things, but children, well, they are good things. And the reason why there's a bit of a paradox there is because the island itself shows stress. It shows a disruption, a disturbance in the flow of events, of energies. Children are costly. They keep you up at night. Babies keep you up at night. And that has a knock-on effect on all areas of your life. Also, lots of arguments occur because of the way a child should be brought up. Children, essentially, are disturbances in the family. Although, obviously, these are positive things. They're just hard work, and that's what the island is displaying. And what's curious is we have a line sort of cutting through one island, or perhaps they're 2 islands. Perhaps it's one child, perhaps it's 2, perhaps this is a lot of perhapses here, but that's because I'm not entirely certain. And this is a bit of a theory that I have here. It could be twins. It could also be a very particularly problematic child. And that's also displayed by, coming from this particular child, the firstborn here, we've got a line sort of coming over into contact with another kind of barrier towards the all-round Venus energies. So a disruption within the stability of home life, or perhaps it's creating difficulties within within a relationship at home, and also this same child, there's an influence line here, and it seems to, it's strong at first, which shows that the issues at home become resolved over time, but it does still seem to branch out and affect this person at the age of, I'm going to say mid-50s, maybe 60. As we see, I'm pointing out two different things here. As we see, it branches over towards at least late 50s, perhaps mid-50s, in fact. So what that means is, I'm not entirely certain. Perhaps there's an event surrounding this child at home at the age that affects this person at the age of around mid-50s. You know, when you've reached the age of mid-50s, and if you've had your children at a particularly average age, you would expect and hope and think that, you know, your children have grown up and become independent and looking after themselves, and perhaps even starting to have their own families. But some children are more dependent than others, and I'm wondering if this particular child is perhaps more dependent than others, or perhaps, as I say, we have twins here. This is a tricky one. So it could be that this, in fact, is not related. You know, perhaps this child doesn't affect this person mid-50s. Perhaps this is another sort of family issue. I'm drawing terrible lines here. This line here, perhaps it's another family issue altogether. In any case, it's an influence from the family that affects this person during mid-50s. Okay, and the other thing to mention is the fate line here on the left hand. Fate lines often show us children, and they're often these little sort of upward strokes. And if you look, because they are, we have to make improvements on, this is tied to the destiny. So the fate line, destiny line, same thing. We have to make improvements in our lives to accommodate the needs of these children, and also they're sort of like branches flourishing from our destiny. So, and this is how often children are represented in the palm from the fate lines. They sort of drift upwards from the fate line, and here we can see a fate line, a branch coming off the fate line with another coming from it. And this is why I was sort of thinking, well, perhaps this person has had twins. I'm not certain. Maybe that's not the case. But I do think this person has at least 2, perhaps 3 children. As you can see, one island here, another here, and another here. So I'm wondering if this person has had several children, over a fairly long amount of time. So there's at least one, and there's one as well. But, you know, these family rings, along with children lines on relationship lines, they're fairly fickle. And sometimes these are, you know, they're not necessarily children. Sometimes, or at least biological children, sometimes it's foster children, sometimes it's family members that live at home that we have, you know, obligations towards looking after. Mum or dad might be living at home, and they have sort of specific health needs. It could even be pets. That does happen as well. Depends on the person and how we think and feel towards others. This person, being a fire hand, is particularly sensitive person, sensitive for a fire hand, and has a good sense of, as I say, right and wrong and obligation towards home and family life. And I believe they have, as I say, two or three children, at least 2 or 3 children. Sometimes children on the palm stem from success lines, because it all depends on how we view children and how we view success. Sometimes those children are represented by effort lines coming from the lifeline itself. For obvious reasons, we're making efforts to improve standards at home, to improve the standards of the lives of others around us. At this person's life, early 20s, we've got, even 19, 18 perhaps, we've got an ambition line, an effort line. There's also an ambition. It's not fully actualized yet, but this person does have some sort of idea about what they want to do, and they haven't managed to do it just yet. And this may have been, it looks as though it's sort of connected to the heart line. There may have been a sort of an emotional barrier here, or even a health reason as to why this hasn't been carried out, or a decision not to carry out the ambition due to something happening emotionally. I'm being quite vague here. Mid-20s, early to mid-20s, let's go with 22. Another strong effort line here. And again, this could be where one of these children was born. And again, mid-20s, another effort line again, and it's all heading towards, they're all heading towards this place of ambition. So that's another sort of signifier that they could well be children. Again, if you see, these sort of lines coming off the destiny line or the fate line heading towards this place, then it's, a need to kind of reach towards a place of ambition and decision making, authority and judgment, for whatever that reason might be. And it looks as though, just referring to my notes, because I've not written my notes in order, so they're all over the place. I'm trying to say this in order of events in this person's life. Late 20s in this person's career is when this person started to need support from their family. This is emotional support. As I say, this is the left hand, and this is how we feel about things. So, it could be that they felt this support impacted them emotionally. Maybe this was practical and physical support, but they felt a bit guilty, in accepting this. But in their sort of late 20s, that's when, you've got influence lines coming over from the family area. After the career, the career is looking strong. It's looking like they're making good money. And then it sort of changes direction after this time. And there's a little sort of, as I say, a change there in this person's overall fate as well. And that could be a child on the way. So late 20s, I think this person had this child that may well be sort of problematic or difficult in some way, and that's perhaps this requirement of support needed. You've got a square inside a square, which is a fascinating sign. The career sort of makes a change. This person makes the conscious change to change their career around the mid-30s mark as well. There's the change there, and it could be that this in fact wasn't at the time that this person had a child, and it could be that this was around the time that some heartache, this person was heartbroken at this time. So I've written that in my notes and I couldn't remember why I've written it, so I've had to reanalyze. So look here on the heart line. We've got a heart line that's on one trajectory, fairly straight, emotionally, able to make decisions without their emotions overrunning them type person, level-headed. It's on one course, and then it changes direction. And you can't really, as far as I can tell, judge or time events on the headline or the heart line. All you can do is look at where the event is and where it corresponds with on the lifeline or the fate line, and draw your conclusions from there as to where it actually occurs on the heart line, if that makes sense. So we have here on the heart line, it comes from the heart line. We know this because of how thick it is. Where it starts is where the line is thickest. It comes from the heart line and it comes over and it crashes through the headline, affecting this person's mental framework and their environment, their lifestyle as well, and also their career. It affects all areas of their life. So this, I believe, is heartbreak at around the age of mid-20s, perhaps, maybe 24. And this person's emotional sort of framework changes completely after this time. Now, if you're feeling heartbroken and you've had a child while you're already quite young, which is quite possible, you're going to need the support from home. You're going to need that support, which forms this square within a square here. Maybe mum and dad moved in. Maybe this person moved in with mum and dad and their child. I don't know exactly. I'm just sort of throwing things out there. It's never straightforward in palmistry. But in any case, this represents emotional disappointment, and it's quite possible that they broke up with their partner at this time. In any case, it completely changed the way they view what they want from a partner, what they expect, what they deserve, and which is completely understandable. The way the heart line branches out like this, it shows, it crosses over into Jupiter, only just. So it shows this person has certain ideals about what to expect, an idealistic point of view to some extent about especially up here, it comes up right up over. About what they deserve in a partner. Now, we're still on the left hand here. And you've got what looks like a tiny little circle there, mid-50s, on the lifeline. And from that, this, this effort line reaching towards, let's be a bit more accurate. Yeah, I'd say it affects this person's career, and it reaches towards, well, for argument's sake, we'll say the first quadrant of the palm, which is the person's unconscious ability to communicate, express, and show ourselves off, awareness, our environment. A circle on the lifeline is often associated with blindness, or at least the loss of one eye or partial eyesight loss. The other way of looking for this is on the heart line, looking for an island underneath Apollo. And you can sort of see one here. It's not directly underneath. Well, it's underneath it enough. So I'm wondering if this person has eyesight issues during mid-50s and has to make quite dramatic sort of lifestyle changes. Also, we've got an overlap of the heart line at this time. It could be that this person has to adapt emotionally because of the this effort made in their life, this change in their life. It's either physical or it's emotional or it's both, a need to adapt. And again, you've got another square here, so there's this protection that seems to develop. It shows that they're protected at this time, which is a great sign. You know, they have the security they need, and you know, it's exactly what this person needs at this time. And shortly after this incident, a couple of years after, we see a line drifting away from the lifeline down into sort of Neptune. So the lifeline appears to double. You know, it's hard to say exactly what's going on here. It could be travel. It could be this person travels at this time, mid to late 50s. Or it could be, or even, late 50s. Or it could be that this person undertakes a second job. It could be that this isn't a loss of eyesight at all. You know, I'm not completely convinced that that is the case. This is a strong effort line rising from the lifeline, touches the career. And shortly after that, we've got this doubling of the lifeline. That's often someone undertaking a role, you know, perhaps they're working nights, working 12-hour shifts. I've seen this quite recently. So it might be that there is something that happens around their environment that requires the improvement, the effort to seek out, the need, a role to meet the needs of the demands at home. And also we see this on the right hand as well, but we see it in a slightly different way. And it sort of confirms my belief that this person does move away. So, and it's at the age of it's at a slightly different age. It's at the age of 50. This person makes a dramatic improvement to their life and then travels. So if we look here, this is about the age of 50, just here. And if you see a very faint, probably because it's some way off yet for this person, effort line reaching towards Mercury. Just double checking that. Yeah, it reaches towards Mercury. And if you look on the Mercury mount itself, lots of skills already here. We've got here a headline that forks. So already we've got a person who has the ability to see things from different angles, and the headline appears to make this fork underneath Apollo. We've got a success line that gets much stronger. It does overall have contact and develop from the heart line. This shows creative abilities. He's an ideas person, and these conscious sort of managerial ideas are related towards home life. I think this person makes a plan around what to do after this event that takes place around the age of 50, and then travels, makes the plan to travel. So there's an improvement here to learn a new skill, perhaps a new role, perhaps a new job is acquired at this time. And then they travel, and then it appears as though the fate line becomes the lifeline. This does happen, and the lifeline then ends in a different place. We've still got a doubling of the life. So again, I believe this person takes on a very difficult, challenging role in order to meet the demands at home, to put food on the table, as it were, in another country. This is a sign of foreign settlement. That's what I believe, and that's because the lifeline travels away from its original destination. So a lifeline that wraps around neatly around the base of the thumb, Venus Mount, is a person who lives and dies in their native land. But a lifeline that stretches away from its initial destination shows someone who lives in a foreign land. But just going back over, because we're now looking at right hand, I'm looking at my notes now on the right hand, and so we're going back in time a bit. The career change, there was a career change that occurred during mid to late 30s, and it's a decision to make a bit of a drastic change, because initially we had a career that was, I think, the person enjoyed, but probably wasn't making all that much money. So here's the career. Now, maybe late 20s, this career changed path, as I think I mentioned on the left hand. So here we see how that changes physically and materialistically. That change then didn't make them as much money after this time, or perhaps they weren't able to work as many hours. Perhaps that's what the change is here, because you've got an environmental kind of disruption from the lifeline. The career takes a different change, a change in path at that time, and it becomes a little bit fainter, which means that perhaps this person wasn't able to make as much money for environmental home life reasons. We've got here 1, 2, and I believe that's the children. But the role itself appears to head more towards an Apollo area, an area of creativity and ideas. And looking at the thumb, this person has a good amount of ideas and a good amount of will to carry them out. More will than logic, it seems. No, actually, it's pretty even. But yeah, certainly will is stronger than logic. The ability to carry out ideas is stronger than the ideas themselves. Although the headline, forking and doing it in a place of lunar that's not too low down, is healthy for where ideas are concerned. So this doubling of the headline, mid to late 30s, mid to late 30s, shows that this person had a need to, well, first of all, it's reaching up again towards Mercury, this area of skills. This person needed to acquire more skills to better their position, to change their role, to make more money, and I think this is all due to family life. So what else? This career change was again back into a more sort of typical work role that's less ideas driven. It's more of a kind of 9 to 5 typical, more of a common type of job. So perhaps this provided less fulfillment, less satisfaction, but provided more money. And the sun line here on the right hand looks strong after mid 50s, and that coincides with this change, dramatic change in lifestyle, this improvement made, and then a move away, and a job which is perhaps difficult, perhaps it's certainly rewarding, at least financially, because the success line here is strong after this time. And it sort of changes, it branches out here towards the end, which shows a fulfillment after quite a difficult, life altogether, but certainly one that's focused towards home life obligations. So there we go. I certainly recommend this person look after their eyesight in particular, and also this person's wrist. If we look here, if I can just move my face out of the way, this person's wrist ratio in conjunction with their palm. It's quite a rounded palm. We've got here it's quite a strong person, physically strong, and emotionally as well. So this wrist to palm ratio is one of the signs of coronary heart issues in post sort of 40s. So this person needs to watch their cholesterol levels from this time onwards, and by that I mean cut down on particularly dairy products. Milk gums up the arteries. Milk is used in industrial glues. That's how effective it is. It's a very sticky substance, and it creates big obstacles within the bloodstream. So try things like fish oils actually reduce and lower cholesterols. Certain fats like that reduce, nuts as well reduce cholesterol. Sea kelp, I believe, is pretty good for it as well. And try taking eyebright. It's a supplement for supporting the eyes and themselves, the organs, in all areas really, and that might sort of have, if I could be completely wrong about the eyesight issue, there is a little bit of an island underneath Apollo there as well. There's a possibility there of some eyesight issues. And here you can also see how the issues during early to mid 20s affected this person's lifestyle on a more sort of physical level now that we're looking at the right palm. So yeah, been a bit all over the place with this palm reading. But the things to take away here are that this person is a hard worker, works for those that he loves at home. Everything he does is for his loved ones. Despite the problems, the issues at home surrounding the lack of a father figure at home, this person has been able to strengthen their own abilities to communicate and express themselves. And this is a testament to their character, as is also their desires to do things for those that they love. And, they're clearly an upstanding citizen, just a generally all-round decent human being. And this good karma that they're carrying out is, it doesn't go unnoticed. And here you see that on the left palm, you've got a plan here, what looks like perhaps mid-60s. You see a line here travelling from the lifeline, reaching over into lunar. Here it is. And that shows this person has the idea, you know what, in future, when all of my obligations are settled, I'm going to travel. So they've already got this plan to travel anyway and have a little me time. And on the subject of karma that I just mentioned, you've got a line here that rises up from lunar, this sort of a deep down ancestral kind of memories, past life almost. The career line on the left stems from the lunar mount anyway, which shows someone who would perhaps have liked a career with an audience. A headline that forks on both left and right hand, especially under a place of Apollo, shows a person who has, as I say, a creative ability, but also ability to see things from different perspectives. This person would make a good writer or an actor, and I believe they had desires to do either one of those two things. But this line running parallel with the fate line like this is, I believe, karma that's followed them from a past life. It's bad luck. They've had some bad luck during their early years, and that is evident, as I've mentioned earlier on. But the good karma that they're carrying out now, they no longer have this bad luck. This was just something that sort of followed them. The good karma that they're carrying out now in their life is, it doesn't go unnoticed. And I believe this person will reach a level of success, peace, and happiness, the prosperity that they deserve. Now, if you look, the lifeline on the left hand, it's sort of pale. It's not as strong and deep on the right. That shows this person, was feeling quite sort of stressed out because of the effort that the demands of their lifestyle, and the right, with the depth of this lifeline here, they're really working hard here to make ends meet. So it's been a pleasure reading this person's palm, because especially when I read a person's palm and I see that actually they deserve a free palm reading. So it's always nice to see, and I wish this person all the best, and I hope they've enjoyed this palm reading. I hope others watching as well have managed to learn a few things from this reading. So please like and subscribe. Thanks for all your comments and shares, and all your feedback and suggestions, and all of your emails as well. Just please note that I can't do a reading for absolutely everyone. But thanks for watching, and